Welcome back to the Fitness Business Insights podcast with me, your host, Matt Robinson, where it's my job to help you build a high profit, low stress fitness business. I've got a very special episode for you today. One of my ambitions this year is to dedicate one episode a month to doing an interview with the types of coaches that I believe we should be seeing and hearing from more often in the fitness industry. People like you that have maybe had to start from scratch and build something. People like you that maybe don't have a big Instagram following, but have got a really solid business off the back of doing the right things locally and in the gym. People that have maybe come into this as a career change and maybe a little bit later on in life and maybe aren't 20 years old. I want to showcase some of the best examples I can vouch for in terms of people that have come into the industry, built something special, are still on that journey of growing and learning and, testing themselves. And then I'm going to ask them the questions that share the insights that you then get to grab by the hands and go and take them away and learn from them. I want to make sure that you're learning from living, breathing examples of people that are doing this day in, day out and are doing it in a way that's successful, but not just from a pure revenue perspective like we see on social media all the time, but in terms of the life they're building, the freedom they're building, and building something special for themselves and their families. So I've got the first of those interviews today with Sam Rice. This is someone that started the PT career that she's in now off the back of having spent 25 years in employment, in retail. I'm going to let her tell us that story in a moment when I introduce her. So she didn't come from a fitness background. She came from a retail background. She already had responsibilities in terms of family and house and that sort of stuff going on. So hers isn't your typical, I was 21 years old. I flew into the gym. I was naive. I was young and all this lot. This is a different type of story. And even where she decided to build her business is slightly different from the average PT. But there's still lots of great insights in there, regardless of where you're based. How she built that business, how she attracted her clients, where her business is at now, what we've managed to build into the business to make sure that there's some longevity in there as well. So she's just a fantastic example of what you can achieve in this industry. And she's done all of that in under 2 years, which is just ridiculously impressive. So without further ado, this is the Fitness Business Insights podcast, and this is my interview with Sam Rice. Enjoy. Sam, welcome to the Fitness Business Insights podcast. It's good to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, this morning. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. You're probably fed up of talking to me this week because we've already done our usual catch up. So this is an extra one that I forced you into, but it's for a good reason because I think you're the type of person whose story needs to be shared in the industry because it's a good example of what people can achieve in the industry. So I've already given people a bit of a brief idea of who you are and like how we work together. But I'd like you to start, if you can, Sam, just give us an idea of what you were doing before you became a PT. What was life like before you started out as a self-employed trainer?
Yes, I was working in a store for over 20 years as a retail manager. I did initially like it when I very first started out. I was a bit younger then, and I didn't have any children. But obviously, the children came along, and then it did get more stressful as the time went on, and a lot of restraints came into it. I was quite lucky working in that role that as a manager, I was able to choose my holidays, choose my days off, things like that. So I wasn't really stuck as a sense. I was used to managing my own time, which I quite enjoyed about that. I also liked working with people and training and developing people. So that was probably one of my strong points of working in retail. So I worked there for nearly 25 years, and then things started to go a bit downhill, and then in the end I was made redundant. So in a way I was quite happy to be made redundant, but it was still a stressful situation to be in and manage the redundancy and the close down of the store, and that was quite difficult time. But prior to that, I had started my own fitness journey about 5 years before then. Around about 5 years before then. And I was quite interested in the nutrition side of side of things. So before I realised I was going to be made redundant, I wanted to start doing something in the fitness industry. I just wasn't quite sure, and I didn't want to give up my job. So really, the redundancy gave me a little bit of a shove in the right direction. Um, so I was totally thrown out of my comfort zone, and had to make a decision. Like, did I want to carry on working in retail? And I did actually apply for some jobs and have some interviews, but I just thought I'd worked in retail for so long of having to work like long hours, weekends and things like that, which fitted my lifestyle as the kid came along. But I just felt like I didn't want to be stuck in a job where I had to work set hours and things like that. And I was obviously quite passionate about health and fitness. So that's why I ended up thinking, I'm going to give it a go. It's like now or never, I suppose. So that's when I more or less straight away signed up and did my level 2 and 3 in Pete personal training. And I suppose I didn't know how it was going to go. There was quite a few big decisions to make. I obviously started speaking to you, Matt, and you helped me decide where to start my business and how to grow, I suppose, to where I am today, 2 years on from being made redundant.
So there's a couple of things there, Sam, that I want to sort of pick out because I think they're important for the audience to make note of these things. So first thing, this previous job, you'd been there for 25 years. So it's obvious that you weren't coming into this as some like, bubbly 20-year-old that was really naive and didn't have any responsibilities or anything like that. Like, you already had kids, you had a husband, you had a house to run. You already had all the responsibilities. You'd been used to this safe salary that came in every month that had been there all the time for 25 years. That safety net was pulled away. So you went from like a lot of certainty to a lot of uncertainty really quickly, didn't you? And this was like a massive shift in terms of the career change. And it's something that as fitness evolves, we are now seeing, we're seeing more people start their fitness business, in their 40s, in their 50s. I actually think this is a really good thing because I think that you can actually relate a lot more to the clients that you're working with very often. I remember when I was 21 trying to train middle-aged women that had kids, and I'm wondering why they can't get in the gym 5 days a week. And you've just got no idea what it's like to be a parent and be busy and have a demanding job, things like that. You've got all that experience, so that's really good. You mentioned, because again, I want to use this as a bit of a contrast to what you're doing now. You mentioned the job was, obviously you might have to do weekends and things like that. You mentioned the term long hours. How many hours do you reckon you were doing a week in that old job?
Well, my contract was 39 hours, and it was salary. So I never, if I did work any extra hours, I never got paid for it. But I would say it depends on the weeks. Like at busy periods like Christmas and Easter and things like that, and holidays. But yeah, I could be. It just depends. I could be there from 8 in the morning till 7 at night. Often I used to work through my lunch breaks. Often I'd go home with a headache. All of those kind of things. And I didn't really have much time for me. I suppose once I started my fitness journey, I think I changed and I prioritized me a little bit more. So I realized how important that was.
Yeah. So you were doing a job like most people in a salaried position where, yeah, you've got your contract, but the reality is you're probably doing, pick a number, 45, 50, 55,
Yeah.
60. It's usually the case, isn't it? That's what ends up happening. The reason I bring that up, because I want to sort of start the conversation to give people a bit of an idea of what you've managed to do in less than 2 years. You had a job there that was a good job. It was a well-paying job. It was a good salary. Obviously, that comes with a lot of expectation and a lot of pressure and a fair amount of hours. We spoke earlier this week, as I mentioned, and we did all your numbers as we always do, your revenue and things like that. I'm not going to go into the details of the revenue and stuff because that's personal. But what I will say is that if your business doesn't grow any more than it is at the moment, if it stays where it is now, which I doubt it will, I think it will continue to grow because there are good signs there. But if your business stays exactly as it is today, this year your business will do over £13,000 more than your old salary. And
Yeah.
you also told me in our meeting this week that at the moment you're doing about 27 and a half hours of delivery.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you work more than that. I'm not going to try and pretend that Sam only does 27 and a half hours a week. I know she doesn't. She works more than that. She does things outside of that, as PTs know. But I just wanted to mention that early in the conversation because I know there'll be people listening to this that do have a job or maybe are trying to transition and they're very uncertain as to like what's on the other side. I think you're a really good example of someone that sort of goes, no, you can earn good money. You can work for yourself. You can have the flexibility and a little bit more freedom. You now get your weekends off, don't you?
Yeah, I love my weekends off.
I know that we've now also worked towards Friday. You now don't deliver sessions anymore. It's not that you don't work. You do a bit of admin and that in the morning, but the idea is you've got a cut off of midday and then that's your weekend is yours. We're starting to work more on like the lifestyle side of running this business, but it's still a good business. And I think it's important for people to hear that and understand that and go, it's not just about earning some massive number every month. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you've managed to build a really good, solid income whilst also having a bit more flexibility and a bit more freedom and a bit more time to do some of the stuff you want to do. And you're not managing a load of people, which I imagine is a nice break. It's nice just to manage yourself.
Yeah, it is nice to manage myself.
You mentioned that, when you first qualified, you did reach out really early, which again isn't normal. You were sort of very forward thinking in terms of, I'm going to need some help. So you and I first spoke before you'd even actually got your qualification, I believe. I think you were still waiting to get your certificates. And there's been a lot of stuff that we've worked on along the way, but there have been a few like really key points. And I think one of the key points came very early on in our first conversation where we needed to decide where you should start your business, didn't we? You were looking at either an independent gym or a commercial gym. Try and take us back to that time. Try and take us back to what your thoughts were and what you were trying to weigh up in your head. And then we can maybe have a chat about what we decided in the end.
Yeah, I think I chose to speak to you quite early because I think I had so many ideas in my head and I just didn't know which way to go. And I didn't want to waste time on going down the wrong track, I suppose, maybe. So when I reached out to you, it was a bit of a dilemma. I didn't know what to do because I've been doing my level 1 and level 2, and I'd spoken to other PTs, and a lot of them were saying that I should get experience of going into a commercial gym and to go there first. But I wasn't quite keen on that because I train in a small independent gym anyway. And I would have done it, but I think I would have felt a little bit maybe out of my comfort zone. And I did actually go for an interview, and I quite liked it, but I knew deep down really I would prefer to be in a smaller gym because I wanted to work with people similar to myself. I think they would feel more comfortable in a smaller independent gym as well, and I think that's probably why it's worked. So yeah, it was quite a big decision to make. And I probably would have got more footfall working in a commercial gym. But I think because of the way how we marketed it, I ended up drawing the footfall in a different way, which was really good.
Yeah. So when we first spoke, it was this big decision of, do you go the commercial route? Do you go down the independent route? Now, typically my advice, and I remember saying this to you at the time, my advice for most PTs is, go and start in a commercial gym because you've got the footfall, you've got the audience ready-made, you've got 5,000 people in front of you. Your job is to then go and get in front of them, and you can't really put a price on that footfall. It's really important. But when you and I spoke, I think at the time you were actually edging towards the commercial route a little bit more than you thought you might have been originally. But then I sort of asked you a question of, how long do you plan on staying there? Are you going to stay there forever, or are you going to try and just get a few clients and then move over to an independent facility? And you were like, I want to kind of be out there in 6 months. I don't want to be there more than, so I was like, don't do it. I was like, let's get you in the independent place instead. Let's get you where you want to be. And we'll just solve the problem of footfall. We'll find a way. We'll make it work. We'll do something different. Because I've worked with plenty of other people that don't have footfall, and you've got to create it. So that was like the first big problem we had to solve, wasn't it? Was you've got a really nice gym to work from in terms of a nice, quiet, independent facility that really is well positioned for delivering PT. It's excellent for that. One of the best facilities I've seen for that. But you've not got 5,000 members walking around.
Yeah.
You've got no footfall. So going in and getting started then, before we get into like how we created the footfall and the marketing and stuff, when you first started, can you remember like what your concerns were? You've come from this job, you're now self-employed. What was going through your head? Because it's just an absolute, it's a bit of a shitstorm in terms of what's going on in your head when you're in that position.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, it was stressful. I think back now, I think it was. I didn't realize at the time how stressful it was actually, but thinking back now, it was quite stressful because I suppose I was thinking like, where am I going to get these clients from? How am I going to earn any money? I mean, the only good thing was I knew that I had a couple of months money because of my redundancy, so I knew that after I paid for the courses and things and paying me wage, I knew I was okay for a few months. But so yeah, I had to get to it. I couldn't mess around. I suppose I needed to be on it and get some clients in as quickly as I could.
Yeah. And you were very clear with me actually very early on. You were sort of saying by my third month, I need to be at this sort of income. It wasn't the full income to replace your wage yet, but you were like, I need to be here by month 3. And then by month 6, I need to be around this point. And then I need to get to the point where I'm replacing that wage. And it was very clear cut. It was very sort of like, right, yeah, okay, let's go then. Let's go and make that happen.
Yeah, I think I knew how much I needed to cover my bills and just everyday, and that was just like essential. So I knew there was a minimum that I needed to get.
Yeah. And then you were sort of then on the right path. So we've
Yeah.
talked about the fact that we needed to create some footfall. We needed to understand how we were going to market your business. Now, something I harp on about on this podcast a lot and in my content and in my newsletters is this idea of building a front end offer for your business. It's the route that I recommend 99% of people should probably go down if they want to attract the right people and build a business in the right way. This is what we did in your business, wasn't it? We went down this route.
Yeah.
So what I think it would be really good for the audience to hear, because they've heard me speak about this so much, is to actually hear it from you in terms of what did your front end offer look like? What were you charging for it at the time? What were you doing in those sessions? Because it's just nice to get an example. And it's not to say that you have to go and copy what Sam did verbatim, but it's just nice to get an insight as to where she started. And then we can maybe talk about how we changed that front end offer over time as you got a little bit busier. So give us an idea of where we started with that front end offer. What were we doing right in the early days to try and get you some footfall?
So yeah, in the early days we did the trial, didn't we? So we did 4 sessions for £50 it was over a 2-week period. The sessions, to be fair, the trial sessions went really well once we marketed. I think it got shared quite a lot of times and I had quite a lot of interest. I think we went with the £50 mark because we was going to go with 28 and then I was a little bit skeptical. So we went with the 50, but the 50 seemed to really, really work and it was fun. So yeah, so people would come along to the first session for a bit of like a consultation. Then we would like run through health questionnaire, we would do measurements, photos, things like that. And then we would do a movement assessment in that first session. So it was quite structured. Each session I followed like a set routine with every client. The second session they would come along to and I would run through a nutrition program with them. So half a session was around nutrition. And then the second half of the session was starting part of the training program. And then the second week would just be 2 like full training sessions. And then after, usually on that you kind of like got an idea because it was coming twice a week, whether it was for them or not. And I'd say in those early stages, I'd say maybe 75% of people did sign up. And there was the odd one that didn't, but the majority did. And I've still got some of those clients today. So it just shows that it did work and I've still got them now. I know that a lot of other PTs at the time thought, oh, that's too cheap. And, but I'm glad I didn't listen to them and just did, what it and just persevered and continued on with it because I was getting quite a lot of interest, a lot of clients. And for me, being a new PT, it was giving me experience as well of working with with clients, which again, if I'd have been just charging full price and sat here doing nothing, I mean, it would have been a waste of my time. So, I might not been getting paid full money for it, but I enjoyed it. I was and I was busy to start off with. that's the thing. So I think that's what was quite nice about it. I was busy straight off. Um, that seemed to really work.
Yeah. And I think what it did for you and what it does for others as well, that a lot of people overlook is, yes, you're selling at a slightly cheaper rate. Not, like I said, not everyone has to copy that. The reason we went down that cheaper route was because the question we were asking ourselves early on is, what are we optimizing for? And what we were optimizing for was volume of leads. We wanted as many qualified leads as possible. And you were happy to sort of, you said to me, like, I'm happy to work with these people for 4 sessions at a reduced rate. I just want the experience. I want the practice. I want to get in front of as many people as possible. So we went for that cheaper end of the spectrum, because the goal was, let's get as many people in as we can and let's see how many of them we can convert and get you that confidence and that experience pretty quickly. And even if people weren't signing up, we were still using that as an opportunity to like get a review from them on Google and things like that. We were doing that as well. So even if the client didn't turn into a full paying client, we got a review out of them. Sometimes you got a referral out of them. So even if they've only paid you 50 quid, you've not given away your time for free. You've got a little bit of money up front that sort of keeps you going. It puts fuel in the car. It puts a little bit of food on the table, because there's nothing worse when you're a PT, when you're doing all these taster sessions and stuff and giving away your time, and you're getting nowhere. You're getting absolutely nowhere. You might do, and I remember doing something like 15 taster sessions in a week and converting none of them. And it's just utterly demoralizing. It does nothing for your confidence. It's horrendous. And then you're thinking, I need to now learn how to sell harder and things like that. So I think for you, it was just a really good way to sort of go, look, let's make sure there's at least a bit of money coming in. Let's give you the chance to gain that experience. Let's get you some conversions. And without sort of putting words in your mouth, I imagine it made the sales process a lot easier for you. I felt like you never really struggled with sales. I felt like it's something that it almost just happened off the back of doing the trial with people. Like, what are your thoughts on that in terms of what it was then like in terms of trying to sell your services to people?
I feel like, yeah, I think you're right. I didn't really have to sell, which is quite good, because that's the bit that I probably don't really like about, having to sell and stuff. But I don't think I ever did, because I think after they'd done their sessions, they really wanted to come back. They enjoyed them and they wanted to come along. So it was more them saying to me, what's next, kind of thing, rather than me saying to them, what are you thinking? I mean, sometimes we did, but it was quite natural conversations rather than sale pitch. It was just kind of like, what you thinking? And then they would say, yeah, I want to continue on, and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot easier to get the sales in that way. It was more natural way, I think, a better way for me to do that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is because you'd already spent sort of 3-4 hours with them. They knew you, they liked you, they trusted you, and they probably felt much more safe having just a normal conversation with you, rather than it being, if you walk into a car sales room today and you meet that salesperson for the first time, you're very sort of defensive and standoffish. You're almost like, you keep your cards close to your chest. You don't want to sort of let them know what your intentions are, maybe, and things like that. Like, if you've spent 4 hours with someone and you've got to know them a bit, and not just as a PT, but as a person, you're a bit more likely to sort of say, you know what, Sam, I would really like to carry on with this. I am enjoying it. How does it work? What does this look like? And it's a lot more natural as a conversation. It's not like you have to bring it up awkwardly and go, here's what happens next. There's no hard selling or anything like that. We then evolved this front end offer over time, didn't we? So we kept it at £50 for a certain length of time. And then once you'd got to a certain number of clients, we then doubled the price, didn't we?
Yeah.
The idea being that by that point, you knew that the trial system worked, but you maybe weren't as willing to give away as much of your time at that reduced rate. So we didn't need as many leads. We wanted a good number of leads, but still pushing that quality higher and higher over time, didn't we? So we jumped to sort of the £100 mark, didn't we, once you'd hit a certain number of clients?
Yeah, so I suppose when I was first starting out, I did promote it quite a lot. I did post maybe every week, every other week. I did post it quite a lot. Obviously, as I started to get busy, I didn't post it as much. And then the odd time I did used to post it around different times to try and just like get a few extra clients in. But a lot of them come from referrals and, like you said, reviews as well. So that really helps on, I think a lot of the clients that come now are mainly through like reviews and referrals, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, good, good. And then in terms of, again, just to give people a bit of insight, because I know that it's sometimes difficult to piece this stuff together. I want to give people a sense of, we kept your marketing really simple. You created a nice, almost like digital flyer for your trial, didn't we? And
Yeah.
we marketed it as, we didn't market it as like a program. We didn't market it as like a weight loss thing or anything like that. It was marketed as, this is a personal training trial. This is for you to try out personal training and see if it's right for you. And the language that was used in that, both in the flyer and in the sort of captions that went along with that, was very much almost, you were promoting it as like the start of a longer journey, weren't you? You weren't trying to
Yeah.
sort of say, oh, this is a one and done. It was almost like, let's get you started. Let's put you on the right path. Let's set the foundations in place and things like that. So from a marketing perspective, again, for the listeners, just to give them a bit of insight, that's the angle we went down with Sam. We went down the route of, this is a trial for a service. This is here to get you started, but it's part of a longer journey. And the way we essentially then used the trial from your perspective was, the trial almost became your onboarding process, didn't it? Everything you did in the trial set that client up ready to just get off to a flyer, didn't it? It was almost like taking care of all those key bits that need addressing early on. Like, would you agree with that? Anything to add to that or anything?
Yeah, because I mean, even now, even though I'm not doing the trial, I still follow that same process. So I still follow the same thing. But yes, it was an onboarding, and I did quite like it. I think it does really work because a lot of that in the beginning, you do need to spend that bit more time with people, and I think them doing 2 sessions a week in them first 2 weeks is a really good way to get people in. Even new clients now, it's a really good way of getting them in, getting to know them, and setting them up some really good goals and programs and things ready for them to achieve what it is they want to achieve.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one thing I do want to address as well, because I know that this could be going through the listener's head, is you mentioned that you were posting your offer. So you were using social media, which we kind of had to rely on because, like we said, there was no footfall in the gym. So we were using Instagram, we were using Facebook, we were using that local network. Now, what I don't want people at home thinking is, oh, she's one of them that had 10,000 followers. It's easy for her. I'm not in that position.
Yeah.
Your following is nowhere near that, is it?
I think at that time, I mean, on Facebook, I might have had a few more because I've been on there longer, but on Instagram, I probably only had about 300 followers, maybe less than that, maybe. And on Facebook, I might have maybe had about 750, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't want people thinking, oh, Sam probably had a big following and she leveraged that or whatever. No, that wasn't there either. But what we did do is we were consistent, weren't we? We made sure that there was content going out. There was a reason for people to follow you and engage with your stuff. We then presented them with an offer so that they could take the next step if they wanted to. We then made sure that as people came in and engaged with that offer, we got referrals and reviews from them so that one lead turned into another lead. And that over time is what built this business. So that's important for people to hear. Now, you mentioned there you're not doing the trial anymore, and that's because, you know, you've only really got capacity for sort of 2 more clients, haven't you, based on what we spoke about the other day.
Yeah.
So you're now doing more of like a premium front end offer where you're now charging £75, and that gives someone the chance to come in and do more of like a bit of a health MOT with you. It's just a one-off session, isn't it? So you're not giving away anywhere near as much time now. You're giving away, 75% less time, and you're charging more for that hour. But what it means is that it positions you now as like a local expert when it comes to health, when it comes to fitness. They come in, they do 90 minutes with you, and you're doing a lot of things in one slot that then gets people ready to take the next step, doesn't it? That's now the route that we've gone down, because you don't need the lead volume. You are getting referrals. You have got reviews and things. You've got a bit more of an authority than you maybe had when you first started now. So give people an idea as to what that version of the front end offer now looks like. Because again, I think people like to see how it's evolved over time.
Yeah, so that offer now is there's still, it's similar to what I was doing before, but it's just condensed into the 90 minutes. So I still get them in, still do health questionnaire, still do. I don't actually do the measurements on this one, but I kind of still go through all the goals. Then we go out and do a movement assessment. We run through a nutrition guidelines, and then we kind of like go back and do a mini workout before they leave, and that seems to work quite nice as well. And then they go away with, at the end, I send them after like a bit of a guide really of, with some exercise, like ongoing what it is they need to do, really a bit of like a prescription, I suppose, of what they need to be doing going forward. Exercise, nutrition, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And the idea is that you're doing enough investigative work in that session. You're doing enough data collection to then be in a position right at the end to suggest, here are the things that you need to be doing now. But if you want to do this properly and move forwards with a proper plan, then here's what it would look like. This is what it would look like to work with me. It's almost like 90% of that session is data collection, so that then the remaining 10% you can give them a very clear and obvious next step. And just to give people an idea as to where our thinking was with this, and why I tend to get people to go down this route, is once you don't need as many leads, obviously you want to charge a bit more, you want to be seen as a bit more of an authority. So the analogy that I use is, if you want to go and see like a medical specialist, if you want to go and see someone privately, let's say I've got a knee problem and I want to go and see a knee specialist, I might pay £250, £300 for a 20-minute conversation, like a consultation. When I go and do that, I know that that expert isn't going to fix my knee in that session. I'm not paying for them to fix my knee. In the same way that when someone comes to see Sam now, they're not paying £75 for Sam to fix their health. What you do when you go and see someone like that, like a consultant, is you're paying for the next step. You're paying for clarity. So you go in there to speak for 20 minutes so that they can gather all that information and then offer you the most clear and obvious next step, and they get you moving with that. So a consultant might say, right, Matt, you need to go for a scan. Here's a referral. Right, Matt, you need to go and get some injection in your knee or something. Here's the referral. Right, Matt, you need to go and see a physio. Here's the referral. They give you that next step, but you've paid for that. You've paid for it because it's done quickly and it's done by an expert. And that's how we're trying to position people like Sam now, is go and spend 90 minutes with this person. They'll get you extremely clear on your health and your fitness and where you need to go next. They'll take away all that confusion for you, and they'll present you with a really simple plan at the end of that. And then it's up to you whether or not you want to move forward with that plan. Dead simple. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do with this, aren't we? That's how we're trying to position you now, and do it not on a volume basis, but on a quality basis. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think it just does well if they continue on. Again, you've done all the groundwork there. You've done all that investigation. You've done the movement assessment. You know what the strengths and the weaknesses are, and then you can move forward even quicker. We call it strong start, don't we? So it's kind of like it's like meeting them where they are and then giving them a plan going forward.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we've spent a fair bit of time there talking about the front end offer specifically, but like a bit more broadly, in terms of just like what you've learned having done this now for almost 2 years, what do you think works when it comes to getting clients? Like, what are maybe the things that people aren't thinking about, just in terms of like how you communicate, how you need to follow up with people, maybe, how personable you need to be, maybe not necessarily tactics as such, but what do you think works on like a human level, a personal level, when it comes to just getting clients and just being the type of person that people want to get help from?
I think for me, it's just being like, I suppose with them, like friendly, approachable, like they know that they trust me, they can come to me with anything. You know, if they're struggling with anything, they know that they can contact me at any time. But I think, I don't know, with a lot of clients, we just have like normal day-to-day conversations, I suppose. I'm quite interested in them. And not just in the gym, outside of the gym, what they're doing, because then I just think I can help them then if I know what's going on outside of the gym, not just inside of the gym, because that's only a small part that I get to see them. And I suppose, I think that's it. I am very supportive, um, person, I think. So, I mean, I did have a client who was struggling a little while back and, to get back in the gym. I mean, it wasn't a tactic as such, but I did go and meet her for a coffee because I knew she was struggling and I thought that would help her more come back to the gym with me and me for coffee outside of the gym. And then she's been back ever since, every week since then. So, I think it's those kind of things. I think it's like tuning into, I suppose like you can tell sometimes as soon as somebody walks through the door how they're feeling that day, and you can kind of, I suppose it's like that. I think I treat each client as an individual, and I don't treat them all the same, just depending on who they are and their characters and things like that. And we do have a bit of a laugh as well. A lot of them will say we do have a bit of a laugh and a joke as well, I think, which they like.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the bit that I know trainers will often hear, but maybe not take on board. Your clients aren't coming to you for a training plan. They're coming because of who you are as a person and the fact that you do care for them. If you think about the average client that you work with, Sam, and maybe most PTs work with, they've already tried other things. They've maybe been part of Slimming World or another slimming club. And if they don't turn up 1 week or 2 weeks, no one notices. No one
Yeah.
cares. If you don't turn up to your meeting or get weighed that week, it's almost like, oh, right, okay, well, they're not here or whatever. There's probably very little care that goes into it on an ongoing basis, unless you've got a really good person leading that group who really does care on that level. Your clients know that they can rely on you in the gym, outside of the gym, and it doesn't mean that you're at their beck and call 24/7. I still think that you've got good boundaries in place. But just that bit of caring just goes a long way, doesn't it? Just showing that, yeah, I am here to help you out first and foremost. That is what I care about. But also there is a professional side to this as well. You've gone down the route as well, Sam, of like putting on events for clients, haven't you? That's something you've done over the last 12 months, like
Yeah.
doing your first events and things. That's worked really well, hasn't it, in terms of pulling people together as a community?
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well is because a lot of these clients, they like cross over as well. They get to see each other as they're coming in. So they're quite like that as well. I'm doing the event, then when they come in, they know people that are coming in as well. So that's quite good, I think.
Yeah, good, good. What would you say has been the hardest part so far? You're now a couple of years in. 86% of PTs don't make it to this point where you are now in terms of actually surviving. And if they do, they're not in the position you're in typically. They're still just trying to get by. What would you say, despite a successful journey so far, what would you say has been the hardest part about it? What's been sort of the tough lessons you've had to learn, or anything that you've sort of just had to give your head a bit of a wobble and sort of say, no, come on, let's keep going? Is there anything like that that stands out?
I suppose tiredness at times, because I think what I've made the mistake of in the past is like, especially when I was doing my content or even different things, I am a bit of a, um, I suppose you could say I'm a little bit impatient sometimes. If I'm doing something I like to do it and I'll stay up really late doing things, and that was impacting me. And I was doing that quite a lot in the early days. And now I've got some really good structures, which and very, very rare do I ever do anything on a night time now. Um, it's all in my day. And I think it's just planning, I think, but planning with intent, I suppose. I mean, before I'm a bit of one for writing lists and I'll have notes, but I seem to, um, I just think sometimes I do need it to be specific. So now I do put it in my calendar, like whatever it is I'm doing, it's specific. It's not just like before I just put like training plans in, whereas now I will put the person's name in so I know whose training plans. So if I've got half an hour, I can quickly go on and get update that training program, rather than before I could be sitting a lot of the time and forgetting to do things as well. So that was another thing. So I feel like I'm a lot more organized now, and I really kind of stick to what I'm doing, and I suppose maybe prioritize things. And time management, those was probably the hardest parts.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not like you're a disorganized person either, is it? I think that's something worth getting across, is that when you go from employed to self-employed, there is an element of like, I've got this freedom now to kind of do what I want when I want. And that sounds awesome. It sounds fantastic. But there's
Yeah.
got to be an element of discipline with that, hasn't there? There is a bit of like, I've got half an hour. I could sit around and have a brew and just scroll on my phone, or I could get those 2 programs done, which then means I don't have to stay up at 9 o'clock tonight on the laptop,
Yeah.
or whatever. There is that bit of discipline, and you do have to kind of learn that the hard way. I think that like, no, it's easier to just spend that half an hour and do it and be clear on whose programs I'm doing rather than guessing it. You're now at a stage when it comes to your admin and stuff where I feel like it's very much like the same approach to food prep. When someone preps their food, the reason it works is they've already made the decision what they're eating, and they've made the decision ahead of time where motivation's a bit higher, so they make a better choice. And then there's no choice to be made when it comes to the Friday afternoon and they'd prefer an Nando's, but they've made something else. It's kind of what you're doing with your admin. It's like, I'm going to do these tasks on these days at this time. The decision's already done. Now it's just a case of, can you show up and do it when that slot arrives? That's the discipline part, isn't it? But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think I have set some better, well, I think I am more, well, I am quite disciplined anyway, but I think I've set some more boundaries in place now, whereas I get it done in the day and I don't even look at my iPad on a night time now, which is really good.
and I think those boundaries and those sort of rules you have for yourself can sound almost like quite constraining. That doesn't sound like freedom, but actually that's what gives you the freedom that you want. Because then when it comes to midday on a Friday, you can just switch off and do what you want for the next 2.5 days. You can go away for the weekend and not worry about it. You can, go out with the girls and have drinks or whatever. You're not constantly carrying around this stress of, I've got my business to run, I've got that to do, I need to get back to that, I need to sort this out. It's kind of taken care of. And again, I don't think a lot of PTs ever get past that. I think 4, 5, 6 years in, they're still carrying a lot of that around in their head.
Yeah, I think
Done a
if
good
you're
job.
not careful, you can end up working 7 days a week, and that's kind of what I didn't want to be doing. And I do feel like I've got a good structure in place now, whereas I'm not having to do things on a week. Because again, I think, oh, I'll just do it at the weekend, but then you want your weekend to yourself, and then I felt like that was impacting me. So then, so putting those boundaries in place and making just sure that it's rather than like say scrolling or chatting or just sitting next to having my cup of tea, I'll get straight onto whatever I need to do, and I feel so much better for doing that.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, you won't know what those boundaries need to be until you've messed it up, will you? You only know where the boundaries need to go by, cocking it up a little bit in the first place. You're quite happy to do all this extra stuff when you first start because it's new, it's exciting, you've got the energy for it. But if you want any sort of longevity, if you want to be doing this for 5, 10, 15 years, you have to learn pretty quickly where do the boundaries need putting in place. What does it take to actually make this a successful business? But then also being honest with yourself. And again, I think this is something you did very well early on, Sam. You were very upfront with me about, look, I want this to be based around my lifestyle. I want to have my weekends free. I don't want to work every hour under the sun. And again, I think sometimes people see stuff online, 10K a month, 15K a month. And it's like, yeah, but do you want the lifestyle that goes with that? Do you want you're going away for the weekend, but you're taking the laptop with you? Do you want to be going on holiday and doing client check-ins and stuff while you're there? And do you want that? Because if you do, that's fine. But if not, maybe that's not the way to go about building your business. Maybe you want something slightly different than that. I think you had a very good idea early on of like, look, I want to do well. I want to surpass what I used to earn, but it needs to be in the right way. Otherwise, I'm not interested. Needed that
Yeah.
structure. So that was good. Now that you're a couple of years in, I feel like you've gained a lot in a short space of time. Is there any advice that you would give now to sort of trainers just starting out, or even Sam 2 years ago? Is there anything you can sort of say now from that position of having a bit of experience that you sort of think would help others? Is there any advice?
I think definitely having somebody in your corner like you, that's probably the biggest thing, because like I come to you sometimes with all these ideas, and you help me like kind of put them in order of what's priority and what's realistic, and give me a bit of insight into things as well. Because I think that is when you're new, you just don't know which direction to go in. So I think that was a massive thing because I was quite clear. Well, we worked it out and was quite clear of what I needed to do, when I needed to do it, and by when. So I think that was a big thing for me. I think the other thing as well is, I think when you're first starting out as well is, I suppose that I definitely would go with that offer again. I wouldn't change that, especially with me working in the independent gym, because that did really get me the experience that I needed. If I hadn't have run that offer, I wouldn't be here now. I don't think where I am today if I hadn't have done that offer. And although a lot of other people were skeptical about it, we can't really say about the results now because I'm doing really well and I'm really happy where I am now. So I think that's a big thing. And I think I suppose just trying to be organised and setting those boundaries is probably another thing that I should have done a little bit earlier. But again, because I thought, oh, I've got all this time, and there was no real time restraint on it because I did have more time then. Obviously, as I started to get busier, that's when it started to impact me because I was getting busier and still nipping off for coffees and things like that, during the day, which I do from time to time now, but I know that everything's done now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
And it's a different
so
experience when you're doing it from a place of like, everything's taken care of, I can go and grab a coffee, versus I'm going grabbing a coffee because I really need one, because I'm knackered, because I keep staying up late, because I'm not doing the stuff I need to do in the day, and I'm leaving it till night time.
yeah.
We've all done that. We've all done that.
I think just, I suppose deciding what you want to do and just and going with it and sticking with it and being patient, because I think sometimes when you start something new, you think, oh, that's not working. But I think you just need to stick with it, and, you might need to make some tweaks, but I think that's it. Just being consistent with what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I think you've done a good job of, I know you're aware of what's going on in the industry and you probably see a lot of things, but I think from the perspective of being your coach, I think you've been a really good example of someone that will speak to me. You'll have your ideas, we'll put them in order. It's not just me telling you what to do. It's a case of we discuss. What do you think, Sam? What do you think, Matt? What do we think's a good middle ground here? We come up with that plan together. It's very much a case of we work as a partnership. And then I feel like you just then focus on that. You just then go, you don't let your focus get pulled too far away from that. You sort of like, I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. We've decided this path for a reason. Let's go for it. You don't let it get distracted by shiny objects and other things that are going on that you might see around you. I feel like you're very good at that. That helps. I know that doesn't naturally come to a lot of people. I just want to give people, to sort of tie things off, a bit of an insight as to what's going on this year in the business. There's a couple of little things that I think, again, are worth pinpointing, because although they sound almost so boring and obvious that you wouldn't mention them, you'd never put this on an Instagram post that's designed to trick people into spending 10 grand a year on mentorship. These are things that are really important. So you've already made a change this year, which means that you're going to get 4 weeks paid holiday this year, aren't you?
Yeah.
So even if you look at a business that's doing well revenue wise, it's not just about that, it's about the other things as well. So Sam, 2 years into self-employment, will now get to take 4 weeks holiday this year, and she won't have to catch up any of those sessions. It's now priced into the packages. Clients have been spoken to about this. Any new clients coming in will understand that that's the norm. Sam can take 4 weeks holiday, doesn't have to be busy before she goes away, doesn't have to be busy when she gets back. She'll still catch up client sessions if they're away, but it means that you can take time off now far more easily, can't you? That's going to be a big thing this year. I think that's going to be a big thing that helps you avoid burning out, because that's one of the problems of success, is you can start to burn out.
Yeah, I think so, because when I'm more or less running a full diary anyway, it's difficult then to when I'm on holiday and then they're on holiday trying to catch up all the extra sessions. So that will be much easier now, just catching up their sessions.
Yeah. And you're currently sat on 30 clients, aren't you? You've got 30 people you're working with at the moment. Got a little bit of room, maybe 2 more we've spoken about, but we already know what the boundaries are in the business. We've already discussed what does Sam actually want to be doing delivery wise, and then where do we go from there? We might look at going down like a small group format. We might look at bringing in a few more people on a bit of like a hybrid basis or something like that. That's another point of leveraging your business. So we've got different options there to grow without giving away loads more time. We are going to start looking this year at things like pensions and investments as well, aren't we? So again, really boring stuff. Really, what an unbelievably exciting conversation. But again, it's just important life stuff that it's all well and good chasing big fancy numbers, but if you haven't got the basics in place, what are you doing? So
Definitely.
we're going down that route this year and sort of going, right, what does this look like in terms of setting enough aside to look after Sam in 10 years time, 15 years time, 20 years time, whatever. And obviously we've got the premium front end offer now as well. So what I'm trying to paint a picture there of is there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of stuff gone on from day one to now, but it's not just all about marketing and revenue. I know those are the things that we share often online because they're the things that get attention, but I want to give people a little bit of a peek under the hood in terms of there's now structure in place. Your diary is now different. You're now able to take holidays with time off. There's boundaries in place. We know what your full capacity looks like, so we can measure against that. We're very clear on what we're going after. I think that's important for people to hear. Are there any other bits this year that we've got on the cards that I haven't mentioned yet? Are there any bits that I missed?
No, I think no, I just want to continue on to grow and build that community, I suppose, with my clients, with a few client events and things, different like get-togethers and things like that. So that's the only other thing I think that I'll be focusing on this year.
Yeah, good. So I've covered all the key bits I wanted to cover with you there, Sam. I think it's been in a short space of time, we've been able to give people a really nice overview of your journey. You've gone from being employed for all those years into self-employment. You've started from scratch. You've built a business in a place that's probably the tougher place to start. As we said, no footfall. We have to generate all that. You've found something that's working there really well. You've developed that over time. Still doing your own bits of education as well. I know at the minute you're working through a course and things like that. So still developing as you go along. So I just want to say, well done. You should be really proud of yourself. I think you're a shining example of what we should see more of in this industry. This is what we should be seeing. This is the example people should be following, because this is a really good example of a very strong business that's doing really well. Any other final bits before we finish off? Anything else? Any other little insights, words of wisdom, bits of advice, bits of confidence that you can give our listeners that are maybe just a bit stuck or just a bit unsure or anything like that? Is there anything you might be able to say to help them out?
There's probably loads I could say, but I think it's just keep going and I suppose it's like anything in health and fitness. What I would say to a client, it's just trust the process and just keep going with it, because it will come if you're doing the right things.
Yeah. And you can probably say that now confidently because you probably feel now a lot more safe and secure, don't you, in this business than maybe when you first started. You probably got a lot more confidence that, look, as long as you're doing these things, everything's all right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that much to get overly worried or stressed about if you're doing these basics. It's not complicated. It's not easy, but it's not complicated.
No, I think it's just keeping it simple and, like you say, the basics. Just keep doing those over and over, and it should, all come together. I think it's just that it's not going to happen overnight. Is that you've got to build up those relationships with people, and spend the time getting to know people, and I think that just will really make the difference.
Yeah, you're right. One of the key bits of my journey when I started a few months into it, I was getting frustrated at my lack of progress, and I remember seeing my grandma, who was at the time was in like her 80s and typical Irish woman, very blunt, very to the point, and she just turned around to me, and it was a saying that I've heard hundreds of times, but it had always just sort of gone over my head. But when it was delivered that day in the way she delivered it, it sort of made me check myself, and she just turned around to me and went, "Matt, Rome wasn't built in a day."
Yeah, I've had that said to me before.
It's like the amount of times I've heard that saying and it's never meant anything to me. And on that day, I was like, "Oh, she's fucking right." Like, yeah. What am I expecting here? I'm 3 months into trying to run my own business. I'm 21 years old. I haven't got a clue, and I'm expecting to be doing all these things that people have been building for 10 years.
It's like you said as well. You learn from those things, don't you? So I probably learned a lot along the way of like I said, like my time management and boundaries and things like that. Probably learned more about that, and I've learned a lot about how important, as I'm always into client, how important like rest and recovery in your own time is. I think that's like really important.
Yeah, Yeah, perfect. Right, we're going to leave it there for today, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing all that stuff with us. I hope that the audience have taken a lot from that, because there's a lot of golden nuggets in there. I think it's one that people should probably go and listen back to a couple of times just to pick a few different bits from. So thank you for helping out with that today. There you have it. My interview with Sam Rice, someone that has done amazingly well in a short space of time. Not the type of person that you're going to see all over social media or anything like that. Not the typical 10K a month case study or anything like that. But as you can tell with the types of numbers we did share, I didn't want to go too personal on the numbers front, but Sam's doing well. 30 full paying clients, talked about how much more she's earning than her old job that was well paying, and she's doing that now with fewer hours per week. She's got those boundaries in place. She gets paid for her holidays. All this structure has been built into her business. It's not a case of getting her to the point where she's overworked and burnt out and then trying to fix it. We've built this stuff in as early as possible, and that just helps you build a better business right from the off. That's what benefit she's had, essentially, in terms of having access to someone that did it all the wrong way and learn from the mistakes. So lots to take from that interview. How she implemented the front end offer system, which is something we talk about on the show all the time. It gives you a really good idea what hers was like, how we changed it, how it's evolved even further into like its third stage, but is still based around those same principles. Some of the struggles that she had along the way, all that stuff that hopefully you can sort of resonate with certain pieces. So I just want to say thank you to Sam for lending me some of her time today to record that for you all. Please let me know what you made of today's episode, because I've not done an interview in a long time. However, my plan is to do one a month with someone like Sam to give you some really useful insights into the different types of businesses you can build, how you can get there, and what it looks like along the way. So let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Please go and leave it a quick rating and review on whichever podcast player you're listening to. It's great for Sam to see that she's got a bit of feedback, and obviously it's great for the show just to reach more people. And until next time, back to a solo show next week, but at the end of next month, I'll have another podcast guest lined up for you, someone that is well worth sitting down and listening to. So keep tuning in, take care, and have a good one.